Welcome to BeFM Drama, where we turn great literature into gripping radio. I'm your host, Joshua Cornwell, and today we're bringing you Part 4 in our adaptation of The Most Dangerous Game, a classic American short story by the author Richard Connell. The American big game hunter Sanger Rainsford has landed himself in a nightmarish situation. Shipwrecked on a private Caribbean island, Rainsford has found himself the guest of the mad Russian General Zaroff, a deadly hunter so bored with killing animals that he has taken up something much, much worse, luring the crews of passing ships into the rocks and forcing the survivors into a deadly game of cat and mouse, hunting them down like animals and shooting them for sport. Rainsford is in deadly danger on his second day at Zaroff's island mansion as the old general returns from another night of murderous sport. General Zaroff did not appear until luncheon. He was dressed faultlessly in the tweeds of a country squire. He was solicitous about the state of Rainsford's health, but sighed with dissatisfaction when he sat at the long table.
"As for me, I do not feel so well. I am worried, Mr. Rainsford. Last night I detected traces of my old complaint."
To Rainsford's questioning glance, the general said,
"Ennui, boredom."
Then, taking a second helping of crepe Suzette, the general explained.
"The hunting was not good last night. The fellow lost his head. He made a straight trail that offered no problems at all. That's the trouble with these sailors. They have dull brains to begin with, and they do not know how to get about in the woods. They do excessively stupid and obvious things. It's most annoying. Will you have another glass of Chablis, Mr. Rainsford?"
"General, I wish to leave this island at once."
"But, my dear fellow, you've only just come. You've had no hunting."
"I wish to go today." He saw the dead black eyes of the general on him, studying him. General Zaroff's face suddenly brightened. He filled Rainsford's glass with a venerable Chablis from a dusty bottle.
"Tonight we will hunt, you and I."
"No, General, I will not hunt." The general shrugged his shoulders and delicately ate a hothouse grape.
"As you wish, my friend. The choice rests entirely with you. But may I not venture to suggest that you will find my idea of sport more diverting than Ivan's?"
He nodded towards the corner to where the giant stood, scowling, his thick arms crossed on his hogshead of a chest. "You don't mean—"
"My dear fellow, have I not told you I always mean what I say about hunting? This is really an inspiration. I drink to a foeman worthy of my steel at last."
The general raised his glass, but Rainsford sat staring at him. Zaroff addressed him enthusiastically.
"You'll find this game worth playing. Your brain against mine, your woodcraft against mine, your strength and stamina against mine. Outdoor chess, and the stake is not without value, eh?"
"And if I win?"
"I'll cheerfully acknowledge myself defeated if I do not find you by midnight of the third day. My sloop will place you on the mainland near a town."
The general read what Rainsford was thinking.
"Oh, you can trust me. I will give you my word as a gentleman and a sportsman. Of course you, in return, must agree to say nothing of your visit here."
"I will agree to nothing of the kind."
"Oh, in that case, but why discuss it now? 3 days hence we can discuss it over a bottle of Veuve Clicquot, unless—"
The general sipped his wine, then a businesslike air animated him.
"Ivan will supply you with hunting clothes, food, a knife. I suggest you wear moccasins. They leave a poorer trail. I suggest, too, that you avoid the big swamp in the southeast corner of the island. We call it Death Swamp. There's quicksand there. One foolish fellow tried it. The deplorable part of it was that Lazarus followed him. You can imagine my feelings, Mr. Rainsford. I loved Lazarus. He was the finest hound in my pack. Well, I must beg you to excuse me now. I always take a siesta after lunch. You'll hardly have time for a nap, I fear. You'll want to start, no doubt. I shall not follow till dusk. Hunting at night is so much more exciting than by day, don't you think? Au revoir, Mr. Rainsford. Au revoir.
General Zaroff, with a deep, courtly bow, strolled from the room. From another door came Ivan. Under one arm he carried khaki hunting clothes, a haversack of food, a leather sheath containing a long-bladed hunting knife. His right hand rested on a cocked revolver thrust in the crimson sash about his waist. Rainsford had fought his way through the bush for 2 hours, whispering to himself through clenched teeth. I must keep my nerve. I must keep my nerve. He had not been entirely clear-headed when the chateau gate snapped shut behind him. His whole idea at first was to put distance between himself and General Zaroff, and to this end he had plunged along, spurred by the sharp rowels of something very like panic. Now he had got a grip on himself, had stopped, and was taking stock of himself and the situation. He saw that straight flight was futile. Inevitably it would bring him face to face with the sea. He was in a picture with a frame of water, and his operations clearly must take place within that frame. I will give him a trail to follow, muttered Rainsford. And he struck off from the rude path he had been following into the trackless wilderness. He executed a series of intricate loops. He doubled on his tail again and again, recalling all the lore of the fox hunt and all the dodges of the fox. Night found him leg-weary, with hands and face lashed by the branches on a thickly wooded ridge. He knew it would be insane to blunder on through the dark, even if he had the strength. His need for rest was imperative, and he thought, I have played the fox. Now I must play the cat of the fable. A big tree with a thick trunk and outspread branches was nearby, and taking care to leave not the slightest mark, he climbed up into the crotch, and, stretching out on one of the broad limbs, after a fashion, rested. Rest brought him new confidence, and almost a feeling of security. Even so zealous a hunter as General Zaroff could not trace him there, he told himself. Only the devil himself could follow that complicated trail through the jungle after dark. But perhaps the general was a devil. An apprehensive night crawled slowly by like a wounded snake, and sleep did not visit Rainsford, although the silence of a dead world was on the jungle. Toward morning, when a dingy grey was varnishing the sky, the cry of some startled bird focused Rainsford's attention in that direction. Something was coming through the bush, coming slowly, carefully, coming by the same winding way Rainsford had come. He flattened himself down on the limb, and through a screen of leaves almost as thick as tapestry, he watched. The thing that was approaching was a man. It was General Zaroff. He made his way along with his eyes fixed in utmost concentration on the ground before him. He paused, almost beneath the tree, dropped to his knees, and studied the ground. Rainsford's impulse was to hurl himself down like a panther, but he saw that the general's right hand held something metallic, a small automatic pistol. The hunter shook his head several times, as if he were puzzled. Then he straightened up and took from his case one of his black cigarettes. Its pungent, incense-like smoke floated up to Rainsford's nostrils. Rainsford held his breath. The general's eyes had left the ground and were traveling inch by inch up the tree. Rainsford froze there, every muscle tense for a spring. But the sharp eyes of the hunter stopped before they reached the limb where Rainsford lay. A smile spread over his brown face. Very deliberately he blew a smoke ring into the air. Then he turned his back on the tree and walked carelessly away, back along the trail he had come. The swish of the underbrush against his hunting boots grew fainter and fainter. The pent-up air burst hotly from Rainsford's lungs. His first thought made him feel sick and numb. The general could follow a trail through the woods at night. He could follow an extremely difficult trail. He must have uncanny powers. Only by the merest chance had the Cossack failed to see his quarry. Rainsford's second thought was even more terrible. It sent a shudder of cold horror through his whole being. Why had the general smiled? Why had he turned back? Rainsford did not want to believe what his reason told him was true, but the truth was as evident as the sun that had by now pushed through the morning mists. The general was playing with him. The general was saving him for another day's sport. The Cossack was the cat. He was the mouse. Then it was that Rainsford knew the full meaning of terror. Rainsford has found himself in a living nightmare, forced to experience what his own prey once experienced as he hunted them down, pursued by General Zaroff, a hunter of such transcendent ability that he can track even the most secretive trail through the dead of night, toying with his victim all the while. Will Rainsford, an experienced hunter himself, be able to outwit his pursuer and turn the tide, or will he wind up another grisly trophy on the general's library wall? Find out tomorrow evening in the nail-biting final episode of The Most Dangerous Game here on BeFM Drama.